Let's take a look now at next year's Super Bowl odds. And Cam, there are some obvious choices at the bottom. We'll work our way from 32 all the way down to number 1 and kind of spend some more time on the team still in the mix. But we'll get here to the bottom of the Super Bowl odds here from BetDSI Online. Number 32, of course, Cam, not a surprise. The Cleveland Browns, 10,000, plus 10,000 odds there. The Jets at 9,000, then the Bears and the Bengals. Anything stick out for those bottom 4 teams for you, Cam?
Well, I talked about how the Cleveland Browns are certainly on the upswing. I think they have good pieces on that defense. Bodie Calhoun at the slot corner had a good year. McCourty played well. And I think the Browns are finally starting to turn the corner. And I think it's going to start in free agency, to be more exact, as well as the draft. They have a lot of picks. They have a juicy amount of value coming at them. I think they're going to get some good players in this draft. And they're going to go wild in free agency, too. And I could see the Browns stealing a lot of headlines as the team that wins the offseason, Tom. I believe that. So it's a team to monitor there. Cincinnati Bengals, the stale situation with Marvin Lewis. I'm not touching them. I'm not throwing any money down there. You got the Chicago Bears, promising team. The Jets are an interesting one because let's say that they get a, shall we say, Saquon Barkley in the draft, a Kirk Cousins via free agency, maybe a wide receiver from free agency as well, i.e. Allen Robinson or Jarvis Landry. I like that number there. All right,
let's get to our next group of 4 here then. Giants, Redskins, Dolphins, and then the Bills. Cam, Vegas doesn't seem to like the Bills very much here. This is actually quite a surprise to me.
Yeah, this is one that is interesting. It's not like they're going to be making any big-time moves. I mean, of course, they got to get rid of Tyrod Taylor and look for the new quarterback, and I think they will get an adequate quarterback. Maybe Vegas is assuming that Nathan Peterman's going to be the starter in Week 1, which makes you cringe. It makes me cringe. It makes Bills fans cringe, I'm sure. So that's a really interesting number at 8,000, being below the Miami Dolphins, who are going to be...
Seems kind of like a slap in the face.
Yeah, they're going to be trotting out...
Same with the Redskins, too, behind the Giants.
Very interesting with the Redskins there. And, yeah, the Giants just ahead of Washington. Yeah, I'm not touching any of these teams here. I really don't have too much faith, although you keep an eye on the Giants with Pat Shermer. It'll be interesting to see what New York does on that offensive side with Eli Manning, and perhaps they address the offensive line in the offseason via whether it's the draft or the free agent market. Andrew Norwell is a guy to watch out there for New York. But, yeah, nobody that I really like here.
We'll keep it rolling. The Cardinals check in at number 24. Then the Baltimore Ravens, the Tennessee Titans, and the Detroit Lions. No respect for Tennessee. We'll start there, Cam.
Yeah, the Tennessee Titans, of course, a new head coach in Mike Vrabel. So a little bit of turnover there, changing of the guard. And for the Tennessee Titans, they're probably going to be cutting DeMarco Murray. So you're going to be kind of passing the torch to Derrick Henry at the running back position. And maybe they go out in free agency and get a Darren Sproles to be that third down back. But for Tennessee, well, they have Avery Williamson, the linebacker there, who is going to be a free agent. They have to make a decision with him. There are a couple other players to monitor as well. But there are some peculiar decisions here by Vegas. And number 1 is Buffalo. And number 2, the Tennessee Titans as well. They should be at least above the Colts and the Bucs.
Come on. Which we'll get to them in a second. Cam, what do you think of your Baltimore Ravens checking in at 23rd?
You know, the Ravens, they are really starting to feel the hurt with Joe Flacco's salary cap hit. And the Baltimore Ravens aren't going to be able to go out and get a flashy new toy like Jarvis Landry because of the salary cap situation that they are in. It's not a good one. And Joe Flacco, I love the guy as a Baltimore Ravens fan, but his play has not been up to snuff, at least to the cap hit that we are experiencing.
Cam, outside of you saying that you love Joe Flacco, I can't believe I'm saying this. I disagree with everything you just said about the Baltimore Ravens. The first time I think that we've been on this show together.
Can you believe it?
We'll keep it rolling here, and this is, I think, of a different little grouping. If you like top 10 draft pick teams this year, Colts, Bucs, and Broncos check in along with the Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Indianapolis Colts, it'll be interesting to see where they go in that first round. Do they go with the edge rusher route? They need a lot of help in pass rushing ability. They also need some help stopping the run as well. And you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dirk Cutter, of course, remaining as the head coach there. And Tampa Bay needs to improve their offensive line, especially in run blocking. I don't know what the future lies for Doug Martin. Probably not a good one in Tampa Bay. So the Buccaneers, not really a team that intrigues me, but they could be a low-key team to kind of surprise people next year, Tom, because they were that sexy wild card pick, even NFC South champion pick last offseason. So maybe a name to monitor that is just kind of flying under the radar. The Denver Broncos are an interesting team. I might throw some money down on this one. because I think John Elway is going to be very successful in free agency. I think there is a situation where Kirk Cousins goes to Denver. Denver addresses the offensive line via free agency and the draft, especially the draft, and maybe even get that big-time guy in Andrew Norwell, guard there out of Carolina. Again, Denver, got to work on their cap space, things like that. But if they cut Aqib Talib, you still have Harris and Darby there playing at the corner position. Watch out for Denver. As for LA and the Chargers, yeah, we know their ceiling. And,
yeah,
you know,
that's fair.
It's just the Chargers.
That's fair. All right, let's get into the top half here, around the top half. Number 16, it is the Oakland Raiders. They're kind of firmly in that middling area, just ahead of the Chargers. I am very curious what the Raiders will end up doing here. And again, we'll discuss this later on in the show. They have cut David Amerson, which frees up a little bit more cap space as well. But what do you make of Oakland next year? This year was supposed to be their breakout year. Derek Carr's healthy, and then it did not go well at all.
Yeah, so Chucky's in town now, and perhaps that helps the odds a little bit for the Oakland Raiders. And a 6-10 record when everybody had Super Bowl aspirations for this team. Not everybody, but a lot of people did. Very disappointing campaign. The offensive line, the most expensive in the NFL, was not as good in pass protection as it was in 2016. Derek Carr, albeit his numbers weren't gross, they weren't pukey by any means, they weren't as good as 2016 either. And the Raiders have some decisions to make with some of these free agents, Reggie Nelson, Navarro Bowman, and you mentioned they cut David Amerson. They might cut Sean Smith as well to free up some cap space. But for the Oakland Raiders, it's just, I don't have a lot of faith in them. And I actually think the Denver Broncos could make a major leap in the AFC West next year with Patrick Mahomes going through a learning curve a little bit. The Oakland Raiders still trying to figure it out. And look, John Gruden, he's got a great staff in Oakland right now. Paul Gunther, you know him, Tom, the DC there. And I think, you know, they're going to make some strides. I could see a 9-7, 10-6 kind of campaign. Super Bowl 53, though, in John Gruden's first year, I don't know.
All right, so the Raiders check in at number 6. And get into number 15 on our list. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. Cam, I am so excited about the Patrick Mahomes era. He's going to be fun to watch. Maybe not always accurate, but it's going to be a blast to watch, see.
Yeah, so
watch him play.
Exactly.
Watch, see, it doesn't make any sense.
Kansas City Chiefs, interesting team here in the AFC West. So they had their fair share of problems in the front seven last year in terms of defending the run, and they hit a bit of a ceiling with Alex Smith. Patrick Mahomes can kind of take them to that next level. It's going to take some time, though. So for Kansas City, they do have some notable free agents in Benny Logan and Albert Wilson, et cetera. And it'll be interesting to see actually what they do in the draft, too, Tom, to address some of these needs that they have on the defensive side. That secondary, now with Kendall Fuller at the slot corner position, so good at what he does there. And you have Peters on the outside. Oh, and by the way, Eric Berry's coming back. It's going to be a ball-hawking turnover type of secondary for the Kansas City Chiefs. And in terms of a healthier offensive line, I think that will bode well for Patrick Mahomes. But offensive line is also a bit of a concern as well, just from a durability standpoint and from an ability standpoint. They could perhaps go to the draft and address the offensive line too.
So Chiefs check in there at number 15. Let's get to what's going to be everyone's dark horse Super Bowl pick and dark horse playoff pick, the San Francisco 49ers at number 14.
They'll be this year's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No doubt about it. The 49ers are going to be the sexy pick to capture a wild card in a postseason berth or win the NFC West or whatever the case may be. Here's the great thing for the 49ers. They have a ton of salary cap space, and they are going to go off in setting up Jimmy Garoppolo for the long haul and for success in 2018. Whether or not it's the franchise tag or maybe it's a long-term deal, probably a long-term deal with Garoppolo, I think the 49ers are in a position to be very active in the offseason, to address the interior of that offensive line. Fusco at guard is going to be a free agent, Tom. Kilgore at center is going to be a free agent as well. Got to make some decisions there. But they could go and grab Quentin Nelson at number 9 or 10 overall in the draft, yet to be decided with a coin flip. They're going to throw a ton of money at Allen Robinson, Jarvis Landry, assuming Allen does not get franchise tagged. But watch out for these 49ers. I mean, I like that number, 2,500, to be honest with you.
I think it's a pretty solid one as well. There with the 49ers, one more thought here for you. What do you expect from Jimmy Garoppolo next year?
I expect him to play well. I do. And I understand it's a small sample size from his 2017 season, 5-0 with the 49ers and all of that. But I think he will have a successful season. If you want to talk about records here, I could see a huge turnaround, somewhere around a 9-7, 10-6 kind of campaign. I think that's their ceiling next year.
They are not the top team in the NFC West, or actually not even one of the top 2 teams, because the Seattle Seahawks check in next at number 13. If you're wondering what the odds mean here, plus 2,400 means if you put down 100, you're going to get 2,400 back if the Seahawks do end up winning the Super Bowl. It's also 24-1 odds to those of you that prefer the other style. Seattle, Cam, what do you think is going to happen to them? Or have they peaked? Is this, with the way this current roster is set up, is this as well as they're going to do?
I'm thinking they have, Tom. I really do believe that. And look, they've been facing their fair share of injuries to that secondary. Shame on the front office of the Seattle Seahawks for not addressing the offensive line that they should have. I mean, let's face it, the offensive line is not good. I know they brought in Brown there at left tackle, Dwayne Brown, but, you know, he was serviceable, but one player is not going to change the complexion of your pass protection and run blocking, etc. They have some salary cap decisions to make. Dwayne Brown, in fact, if they do want to cut him, no dead money there. Earl Thomas, Dallas Cowboy, perhaps. Who knows? Maybe sometime down the line. There he is.
Don't get him riled up, Cam.
Yeah. There he is with an $8.5 million cap savings if the Seahawks decide to cut him. You see the free agents there. Sheldon Richardson, he could go to the Jets. Jimmy Graham could look elsewhere. He's just not fitting well with Seattle's offensive scheme. Seattle as well at the running back position, dealing with so many injuries. I could go on and on and on, Tom. 9-7. I mean, that's generous for next year. I could see 8-8, 7-9.
Wow, okay. All right, so the Raiders 16, Chiefs 15, Niners 14, Seattle 13. Let's get to the top 12 then. We'll stay in the NFC, and at number 12, it is the Carolina Panthers. Cam, this feels low to me. Like, I would put the Panthers in the top 10, frankly. And when we do our NFL Power Ranking show on Wednesday, they will be in the top 10, at least for me. We'll see if I get my way.
Yeah, I do like them in the top 10. Now, they have to try their very hardest to keep Andrew Norwell there at guard. Yeah. If they lose him, that'll be really, really tough. And Julius Peppers, another free agent that the Carolina Panthers perhaps will be in discussions with, Star Lutulele, as well as the defensive tackle there. And you look at the Carolina Panthers here, and I think the premise for them and the priority for them should be running the football and protecting Cam Newton. And that's, of course, coming,
that makes sense.
That's coming from pass protection standpoint, Tom, and from the standpoint of looking past the Jonathan Stewart era, because we are getting to that point. And I could see the Carolina Panthers being active in free agency, looking for a new running back, right? Because there are some good running backs out there that are going to test the free agent waters, perhaps a Carlos Hyde or a Dion Lewis, perhaps even a Rex Burkhead if the Panthers want to go in that route, but probably not really the guy that they should get. So I could see the Panthers, bringing somebody in at the running back position. They also have needs at wide receiver. You tell me who their star wide receiver is right now, because, well, they don't really have one. Devin
Funchess stepped up, but I don't know if he is that true number one receiver. He looked a lot better this year, but I think it's still a big need for them.
Yeah, but they got Shepard as well and all that jazz, and that's fantastic. But the Panthers, they're getting a little older on that offensive side as well. So Carolina, I agree, Tom, should probably be inside the top 10. So at 2,300, not too bad of odds right there.
Yeah, all right, so Panthers there check in at number 12 on next year's Super Bowl odds. We'll keep it rolling to number 11. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cam, I do not trust them. I refuse to trust anyone led by Blake Bortles.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm not throwing my money down here at all. I'm not even looking at this number. Now, 2,200 at number 11. Give me the Panthers all day at 2,300 at number 12.
Totally agree.
So the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have the defense. They're there for the long haul, and they will be a 10-win team somewhere around there. But at the end of the day, who's going to hold them back, Tom? It's going to be Blake Bortles.
Who, by the way, I think very well may have finessed the Jaguars into guaranteeing his contract because he underwent
the wrist injury.
The wrist surgery. If we reach the new league year and he's not healed yet, they can't cut him because his contract's guaranteed for injury. Brilliant play by Blake Bortles.
By the way, the Jags now are the Seahawks of 2012, 2013, 2014.
It's kind of insulting to Russell Wilson.
Oh, except for the quarterback position. Talking about the defense on that.
That's fair.
So the defense is it's rising and it's still cheap. right? You can keep all these guys.
Some big name players, but there's still some guys on those first-year deals.
Correct.
Like Ramsey.
And that's very important to kind of note there. And so for the Jacksonville Jaguars, you got to ride out this run that you can have as long as you can. And I don't know if Blake Bortles is the guy that can take them to the promised land, that can take them to Atlanta in Super Bowl 53. And so hearing this story a few weeks ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, that Blake Bortles is there to stay, I think is a very big mistake. And, you know, here they are at number 11, and I'm just glad they're not inside the top 10. I'll tell you that much. I'm not putting any money down on Jacksonville.
Let's get to the top 10 then. At number 10, it is the Dallas Cowboys, a very popular bet among bettors. And they're not even the highest Texas team. We'll get to that one in just a second here. But the Cowboys here, do you have any faith in them right now, Cam? You can be honest.
They have some changes that are going on in that secondary that I am really interested to see how it all works out with Woods and Awuzie and Jones back there. I know you have your fair share of soapbox moments.
Byron Jones, the cornerback.
There you go. Soapbox moments in terms of how the secondary should be configured. But I think the Cowboys will lock in DeMarcus Lawrence one way or another, whether it's via the franchise tag or via a long-term deal, somewhat like Olivier Vernon. Tom's, hate to say it, could get that big-time money.
That's a lot of money.
But for the Dallas Cowboys here, look, you look at the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles are not going anywhere. The Washington Redskins are dealing with some turnover. Alex Smith is the quarterback now. How is he going to fit in that offensive system with Jamison Crowder as your number one guy? So, I mean, I don't think the Redskins are going to make any big-time leaps. You have the New York Giants that are just totally starting over, it seems, because of the injuries that they dealt with all year. It was like a different team in that second half of the season, so they're like restarting in 2018. If I'm putting my money down in the NFC East outside of the Eagles, I think the Cowboys would be an intriguing option.
Fair.
At number 10, though, a little wary.
Cowboys are one of those brand name teams that always end up having higher odds because the bookies are trying to get people to bet. So the Cowboys check in at number 10. We'll stay in the same state. Number 9, one of the more fascinating picks here for me, Cam, the Houston Texans. This is all about Deshaun Watson.
Oh, it's absolutely about Deshaun Watson. And the Texans are, of course, a playoff team if Deshaun Watson does not go down with injury. And you know how that whole Tom Savage thing worked out.
Like he did, because Savage is bad.
Savage is very bad. Okay, so some problems here with the Texans. Very bad secondary last year. Ranked 27th against the pass. They have Jonathan Joseph, their best corner, who's going to be a free agent. Kareem Jackson was brutally bad. And
he regressed big time this year.
So maybe they go to the secondary in the draft or maybe via free agency. Some pretty good corners are going to hit free agency if, you know, they don't get franchise tagged or whatever the case may be. The Houston Texans, though, they dealt with their fair share of injuries. Whitney Merciless, J.J. Watt, so we got to know how they are kind of recovering and how they're going to perform in 2018. There are a lot of uncertainty marks here to look at, and that's why I'm a little wary about the Houston Texans. Maybe I'll throw down a few bucks. I like them better than the Jaguars, I'll tell you that much.
I have bust concerns here with Houston because I was not high on them at all entering the year. I am still bitter that Deshaun Watson got hurt because I would have won my fantasy championship had he stayed healthy. I know I would have won, and I want to see him put it together for a whole year. He had a lot of TDs. He threw a lot of picks too.
That is absolutely right.
So Watson probably would have won Rookie of the Year, and rightfully so, but Houston at 9, it seems maybe a bit on the high side for me.
Offensive line was really bad last year as well.
And they traded away Dwayne Brown.
And it gets worse.
So. They got to protect Deshaun Watson better. We'll go back to the NFC now. At number 8, it is the Los Angeles Rams. A big turnaround, and I firmly believe, Cam, that Jeff Fisher should be barred from all football-related activities for the rest of his life because of what he did to Jared Goff, Case Keenum, and Nick Foles. All three looked awful under Jeff Fisher, and they look pretty darn good this year.
Man, I don't envy Jeff Fisher right now. So, all right.
Everyone is ripping on Jeff Fisher.
Poor Jeff Fisher, Mr.
That's a good
Average.
point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. We appreciate you.
I'm not really sorry.
All right. All right, so the LA Rams. So decisions to make with a few guys here, Tom. Tremaine Johnson at corner, LaMarcus Joyner at safety, Sammy Watkins at wide receiver. Okay? Got a good amount of cap space, so there might be a scenario where they're able to bring all these three back.
Got to extend Aaron Donald, too.
Got to extend Donald.
Stupid.
Yes, absolutely. Got to pay him big time. He is the franchise of that front line. The Rams here, what a season, 11-5. I like these odds. I like that number. They're in the lower part of the top 10, which is kind of where I want them. Number 1 scoring offense in 2017. They're only going to get better. Robert Woods, what a season he had. It'll be really interesting to see where the Rams go in the draft, Tom, because they're kind of in that wide receiver James Washington region, aren't they? I mean, they could go and grab a Sutton or a Washington in their first round.
If they lose Sammy, I could see that being the case. My guess is that they would focus on defense, assuming they keep Sammy, because cornerback, safety, if they lose Joyner, and edge rusher, also a big need there. The Rams check in at number 8. We'll stick in the NFC here for the next couple picks here. The Atlanta Falcons check in at number 7. Cam, you're moving your arms like you wave an incomplete pass.
No, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, do Cam Rogers a favor. Casino Cam, do not put any money down on the Atlanta Falcons. They are frauds. They are fakes. They are phonies. And I don't believe in this team. All right, so, Tom, they're going to have to go through a lot of salary cap cuts. You see that player card right there. Current salary cap space, $10 million. That ain't good. All right, so they have decisions to make in terms of cuts.
Doesn't include their own free agents or the money that has to be allocated for draft picks.
Yes.
And in theory, Poe takes up $8 million of that if they bring him back.
Correct. All right, so you have the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, they made the playoffs. I didn't have them making the playoffs when I did my playoff projections. But there's just something about Steve Sarkisian that doesn't sit well with me.
Oh, that he's bad play caller.
That's it. Thank you.
We figured it out.
Thank you. How do you go from 2016 with Kyle Shanahan to 2017 with the same offensive cast and Steve Sarkisian and stink up the joint in terms of your ability to score and put up points and be an effective offense? It is a failure on the part of Steve Sarkisian. It's a failure on the part of Dan Quinn as the head coach to let this guy come back. Everybody out there, I'm sure in the YouTube comments as well, will be like, this guy's an idiot because they should have, I mean, why not give Steve Sarkisian a second chance? It's only been 1 year. Yes, all right, YouTube commenters in the future, I understand you. I understand your perspective.
But you're wrong. That's what you're saying.
But you're wrong because the Falcons had the same offensive core and Sarkisian couldn't do it at all.
All right, there. So the Falcons check in at number 7. We'll keep it rolling to number 6. We'll stick in the NFC South. The New Orleans Saints, Cam. I'm a little bit concerned with Drew Brees aging that the window is a little narrow, especially if they don't find a young quarterback soon.
By the way, before I talk about the Saints, do you like how I'm mentioning future YouTube commenters now?
Yes,
I just know what's going to happen. When I say something,
they all rip on you. There you go.
Keep them coming, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so the New Orleans Saints, absolutely. They have to figure out Drew Brees. And Brees wants a 2 to 3 year kind of deal. The Saints leadership would probably prefer a kick-the-can 1 year deal kind of situation.
What they want is the Jason Witten contract for the Cowboys, which is like a 4 year deal with no guaranteed money that pays them a lot each year.
Yes.
That's the ideal scenario, but if you're Drew Brees, you're like, nah.
You're insulted, in essence.
Nah.
And I've said this before, Drew Brees has been frustrated in the past with the New Orleans Saints, most notably back in 2012, when he was very vocal about how contract negotiations were going and all that. So yes, they got to take care of Drew Brees. They have somebody in that secondary named Marshawn Lattimore that I think is going to be really good. You have needs here for the Saints at tackle, at edge rusher, at linebacker. They could get a little better, add some more depth, but I think they are in a promising position in that regard. Look, Saints 1,700, I like it. I'll put some money down for that. I mean, if they're at 3 or 4, I probably would not go with the Saints here, but at number 6, I like that number.
We'll keep it rolling here. The Saints check in at number 6. We're going to the top 5 teams with the best Super Bowl 53 odds here on NFL Daily, brought to you by Game Time. At number 5, it is the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm a bit surprised they're so high, Cam, but only because of the uncertainty around the quarterback position.
Well, that's the key word, right? Uncertainty, because Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Bradford, and Case Keenum are all going to be free agents. If I had to guess in terms of what is actually going to happen among all those 3, I think Bradford walks, goes to another team. I think Keenum gets the franchise tag, and I think Teddy Bridgewater re-signs with the Vikings 2 to 3 year kind of deal, prove it kind of deal. And so it's a competition at that point between Keenum and Bridgewater to be that starter in Week 1, 2018. I think Bridgewater will end up beating out Case Keenum in training camp. I do believe that, and I think he's going to be the Week 1 starter. Now, for the Minnesota Vikings elsewhere, you have to be able to protect Teddy Bridgewater as well. Now, you look at the offensive line, particularly at guard. Not fantastic. And so if you want to protect Bridgewater, you got to protect him on that interior. So if the Vikings address the offensive line in the draft, I think that would be very smart of them. Current salary cap space of $57 million. Not too shabby either. And the Minnesota Vikings, of course, they have that stalwart defense that will keep them in many, many games in 2018.
Unless you're playing Nick Foles.
Unless you're playing Nick Foles, apparently. Vikings at 5, my Super Bowl pick heading into the postseason. Sure thing. I'll throw some money down.
I like Minnesota there. They check in at number 5. We'll stick in the NFC North again at number 4. The Green Bay Packers. Producer Harris and I discussed this yesterday on the show. Is Green Bay too high, Cam?
Way too high.
They're 4.
Way too high. Did you see that secondary last year? Like, the Green Bay Packers, I understand that they go as far as Aaron Rodgers will take them, and, you know, that's all good and dandy. You look at the current salary cap situation here for the Green Bay Packers, and they're in the lower tier. They're with the Jaguars and the Panthers and the Cowboys. And so for Green Bay, at plus 1,000 odds, number 4 among all 32 teams to win Super Bowl 53, big fat no thank you. Just honestly, I'm looking away. I'm letting the people out there jump on the Packers. I'll look elsewhere. Look at a Vikings. Look at a Rams. Look at a Saints and put my money down.
All right. Packers check in at number 4. Back to the AFC for the first time in a couple of teams here. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is partially because it's the AFC. They're just not that good outside of the Patriots.
The AFC is a watered-down conference. Let's put it as it is. And, of course, the Steelers' number 1 priority for them this offseason is to take care of Le'Veon Bell, whether it's via the long-term deal, probably not. Probably going to be the franchise tag with $14.54 million as a payday, even though Le'Veon Bell has threatened that he will sit out 2018 if he gets tagged. That's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. Ben Roethlisberger, does he take a dip in his play next season?
I am always concerned when the quarterbacks kind of reach near that age, a Big Ben, even a Drew Brees and a Brady at some point. Right. Their play is going to fall off. It's a matter of when.
And I think that when for Ben Roethlisberger could be next season. And so the Steelers at number 3 in terms of Super Bowl 52 odds, I understand the AFC is a little rough. But I think some teams are going to be very much improved in the AFC next year. I think the Jets are a team to watch out for. I'm not going to say they're going to, compete with the Steelers, but a team to watch out for. Denver Broncos, especially if they get Kirk Cousins, they address the interior of that offensive line, and the Raiders could make a bounce back too. I'm just not liking that number for the Steelers. All
right, let's get to number 2 then. It is your defending Super Bowl champs, and call them defending now, the Philadelphia Eagles. Cam, I think that they should be number 1. I'll say it right now.
They should be
disrespect.
They should be number 1 in way too early power rankings, and they should be number 1 in terms of Super Bowl 53 odds.
They are built to last.
They are.
Yeah, the cap space is tight right now, and they have some linebackers who are free agents. Carson Wentz is coming back. The Eagles won with their backup quarterback. Why aren't they number 1 going forward? I don't understand.
They have the best offensive line in all of football.
And they did it without their left tackle, by the way.
They did it without Jason Peters on that left side. What a job. Fantastic coaching staff. It'll be really tough to see if DiFilippo leaves.
There is a real argument that 3 of the Eagles' best players, or at least some of their best players, in Jordan Hicks, Jason Peters, and Carson Wentz, they won without their 3 best guys.
Absolutely.
And yet they're number 2. No respect for Philadelphia.
No respect at all, and that's why I don't mind putting a little money down on the Philadelphia Eagles. And, again, you mentioned it, Carson Wentz. Health factor, though. Yes. How will the recovery go for him? It was a brutal injury, and, it wasn't like week 1 or 2 either. So it's something to monitor there for the Philadelphia Eagles. At plus 800, I'll put some money down on Philadelphia over this team at number 1.
And at number 1, Cam, it is the New England Patriots. The odds aren't that great, just plus 400. There are still question marks. How much longer can Brady do this? And I know we ask this question every single year, but no one's done this before at this high of level. No one ends up with 500 yards in the Super Bowl at his age, at any age.
You know what they say, Father Time is undefeated, right, Tom?
It's very true. Eventually, it will catch up to him.
And I think, perhaps we could see some effects of that with Tom Brady next year, but I don't want to get into any of that because it's too speculative and all that. Here's the problem, Tom. They can't rush the passer. Their linebacking core stinks. They need to get an Avery Williamson or somebody like that to kind of bolster that front 7 a little bit. And oh, by the way, Malcolm Butler could walk, especially with the latest transgressions that we have seen with Super Bowl 52. So that defense is going to be an issue. And oh, by the way, you just lost your defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, to the Lions, and you could lose Josh McDaniels, although it hasn't been official yet.
He's gone.
To the Indianapolis Colts. Turnover, and a defense that is leaky and can't rush the passer, and an older Tom Brady. I don't like the number there.
All right, folks, today's show is brought to you by the Game Time app. If you need last-minute sports or concert tickets, you got to go with Game Time. Get it today at chatsports.com/tickets, up to 60% off compared to the other ticketing app prices out there.
Absolutely, up to 60% off indeed, and really a fantastic app. You got to try it out, download it, try it, and just like look at the prices as you scroll. You will be amazed at how cheap you can go to a local sporting event or theater or concert event as well.
All right, let's get now. We showed you the 2019 Super Bowl odds. Let's get to the 2020 AK Super Bowl 44. Sorry, 54. I had to think there. I did the LIX stuff. We'll get these all together at one here. We'll look at the top 5 and the bottom 5 because there are, Cam, I think, some notable surprises on this list here. Texans check in at number 5 again, a testament to Deshaun Watson. The Packers at 4. Patriots at 3, but they slide down a little bit. Some question marks around Brady. Then it's the Rams and the Eagles. There's the respect for Philadelphia.
There we go. They're at number 1 now. It's a year later. I don't know what Vegas is thinking here. So yeah, Super Bowl 54. I love the Rams there at number 2, plus 700. I think they are in for the long haul. You got the Patriots. No thank you at number 3. Packers. Too far down the road for me to really buy into. And then the Texans are a really interesting one at 1,000.
And then let's get to the bottom 5, because this I thought was even more surprising. Okay, Browns, Bengals, Jets, I get it. But the Bills and the Giants? Why do they hate the Bills so much? I don't understand this.
All I can think about is Nathan Peterman being the starting quarterback in 2019, but that's just not a reality.
It must be uncertainty about the quarterback position.
It's got to be. And then for the Giants, it could be Eli Manning retirement time.
Also uncertainty about the quarterback position.
And it could be Rosen, the starter, that week 1 in 2019. Who knows?